To many basketball fans, Michael Jordan was the greatest of all time. He was the greatest competitor to ever play the game. He knew how to physically dominate and mentally decimate his opponents. He liked to think he was the best at everything, but when it came to trash talking, even the great Michael Jordan knew there was someone else out there that he couldn't top.
Hey, Michael.
I'm loving it, though.
Would you like to have some his ass today?
Hey, you know I'll be coming at his ass. Just like I used to come at both of y'all.
It might come as a surprise to some, but Michael Jordan once said, Larry Bird is the greatest trash talker and mind game player of all time.
Enjoy yourself, dog. You bitch, fuck you. Y'all gave us a run for our money.
He taught me everything I know about getting in folks' heads. So come along for the ride as we revisit some of Larry Legend's most savage and ruthless trash talking takedowns.
Larry Bird. Follows his own shot.
A lot of people thought Larry Bird was just a modest, regular guy. He was the lovable Indiana country boy, the hick from French Lick. But even dating back to his rookie season in 1979, Larry Bird the competitor was far from the aw shucks country bumpkin the media portrayed him as.
Good.
I got a question on a completely other subject.
His Celtics teammate Jeff Judkins described how the rookie let his teammates know right from the start that he wasn't one for messing around. Back in the old days, every rookie had to carry bags on the road. On our first road trip of the season, Larry stood up in front of all the guys on the bus and said, "I want you guys to know I'm never going to get you any water and I'm never going to carry one bag ever." Now, some players who were notorious trash talkers were easy to spot, mostly because they never shut up. Guys like Gary Payton, Charles Barkley, and Kevin Garnett all subscribed to the nonstop, in-your-face method of getting in opponents' heads. Larry Legend took a much different approach. Bill Fitch coached Bird for his first 3 seasons in the league and described the quiet but impactful way he took verbal jabs at his opponents as whispering needles. Fitch then described how Larry once humiliated an opponent with a single question during a preseason game. Bird casually asked the man tasked with guarding him that evening, "What's the scoring record in this building?" When his opponent asked why he wanted to know, Bird mockingly replied, "Well, you're guarding me, aren't you?" From unnamed, forgotten opponents to NBA superstars, Larry Bird did not discriminate when it came to trash talking on the court. Even his arch rival Magic Johnson could not escape Bird's wrath on occasion.
Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, and Larry Bird were put in a room together and told to battle it out. Bird would be the one left standing.
In 2019, Magic gave a speech in which he told a story about how Larry Bird trash-talked him mid-play as Magic scrambled to attempt to close out Bird at the three-point line.
You DJ coming down, right, with the ball. Oh, great DJ, that's good. So pass it to Larry, he's in that corner. So as you pass to Larry, my first job was to stop you first, right? Now I gotta go out and close Larry Bird out. So as I'm running out to Larry Bird, he's talking trash to me. I don't know why you running out here. Who says that in the middle of the game? He said, I'm gonna wait till you get one step away from me and I'm gonna shoot it right in your face. No, true story. So I got one step away. He shoots it all net. 3-pointer, good. Then he turned to me and said, "You did all that running for nothing."
Retirement is great for you because you never talked this long.
So the numbers won't say that Larry Bird was the best shooter in NBA history, but nobody was more clutch and more confident in the biggest moments when the pressure was at its highest. Even the great Pat Riley once said, "If I had to choose a player to take a shot to save a game, I'd choose Michael Jordan. If I had to choose a player to take a shot to save my life, I'd take Larry Bird." And there was no place better in the 1980s for Larry Bird to show off his clutch shooting than during the annual NBA three-point shootout held every All-Star weekend.
He was a cold-blooded killer.
Prior to winning the inaugural event in 1986, Bird paced around the locker room and sized up his competitors. He looked at one guy and laughed out loud. Before leaving to head out to the court, he left the bewildered group with one question: "Which one of y'all is coming in second tonight?" Bird's confidence was no facade, as he defeated Craig Hodges in the final round to take home the title. As Bird was being awarded his prize for the win, he shouted out, "My name's been on this check for a week."
Congratulations once again. Thank you.
Bird went on to win 3 consecutive three-point shootouts. During the 1988 contest, Bird was so confident of a win that he didn't even bother taking off his Celtics warm-up jacket.
He took off his top yet.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't see when he took off his top.
He defeated Seattle Supersonics sharpshooter Dale Ellis in a close final round. Bird needed to nail his last 2 shots for the win, and he did just that, raising one finger in the air before the final shot sank through the hoop for the win.
Defends the long-distance shootout crowd at Chicago Stadium.
Bird competed in the 1989 three-point shootout, but was hobbled by the beginning of a series of back injuries that would eventually end his career. He didn't make it to the finals and could only watch as Craig Hodges finally broke through and earned the win as he defeated another legendary trash talker, Reggie Miller.
I'm doing all this talking. He's like, okay. Into the game in the second half, he ended up with 44, and I ended up with 12.
In a battle that came down to Miller clanking his final shot off the rim that would have earned him the win instead. Hodges was thrilled to finally win the event. After the contest, a reporter asked Hodges if the victory was diminished by Bird's injury. Insulted by the question, Hodges replied that once healthy, Bird knows where to find me. Bird got wind of the comment and responded that he did indeed know where to find Hodges at the end of the Bulls bench.
It's true about this boy. I was calling everybody. This dude can play.
Three-point shooting contests were one thing, but Larry Bird staged some legendary shooting exhibitions complete with next-level trash talk during real games that still seem unbelievable all these years later.
Off to McHale, back to Bird. Larry stops, jumper, good!
Perhaps the most memorable of these epic nights happened in 1985 in a game against the Atlanta Hawks. The Hawks were a very good team with forward Dominique Wilkins starting to establish himself as a star in the league. Bird was always up for challenging another team's star player. But what Dominique and the Hawks may not have known was that Kevin McHale had set the Celtics' single-game scoring record a few nights earlier when he dropped 56 points on the Detroit Pistons. Bird was not going to let that record stand for long. Larry Bird tortured the Hawks that night to establish a new Celtics scoring record of 60 points.
There's Bird. Bird, 14 seconds, he got fouled. He hit the shot. They're not going to count it.
Hawks point guard Doc Rivers recalled Bird calling his shots to the Hawks players. Bird told them things like, off the glass. He asked them who's next and where do you want this one? Towards the end of the game, with the Celtics up huge, Bird turned things up a notch. He told the Hawks in the trainer's lap, meaning he was going to launch a deep fadeaway three-pointer right in front of their bench, and his momentum would force him off the floor right into Hawks trainer Joe O'Toole's lap. When Bird's shot caught nothing but net, even players at the end of the Hawks bench were cheering. Hawks coach Mike Fratello was not amused, and he fined several Hawks players for their antics, but not before he made them watch themselves over and over again during the next day's film session in practice.
Bird on the drive. The floater is good. Very inventive shot. Here's Dennis.
There really were no bounds to the ways Larry Bird would trash talk and humiliate his opponents.
He offered these, and then he said, who wants it? And I think Ricky Brown, I'm not for sure who it was.
Left side, over across the three, and you're listening to him. That's a tough feeling.
Sometimes he seemed to do things out of boredom or to simply entertain himself. This seemed to have been the case one night in 1986 when he stated before a game in Portland that he was going to play this one left-handed. Well, at least through 3 quarters. I'm saving my right hand for the Lakers. Bird followed through on his promise and went for a triple-double that night, finishing the game with 47 points, 14 rebounds, and 11 assists in a 120-119 overtime victory.
Another left-hander by Larry Bird.
Larry Bird had his run-ins with players over the years that initiated trash talk of their own. One guy that wasn't afraid to poke the bear was the Indiana Pacers' Chuck Person. Person was an outstanding three-point shooter. His nickname was the Rifleman. So when the Pacers were visiting Boston the day after Christmas in 1990, old Chuck had a pre-game message for Larry. He said the Rifleman was going bird hunting. Bird was told about Person's comments and told reporters before the game that he had a special present for Chuck. The Celtics went on a scoring spree that night, scoring an insane 152 points in a 20-point victory. Bird easily outplayed Person, scoring 22 points to go along with 12 rebounds and 7 assists. Person only managed 10 points in 17 minutes of action. At one point, Bird launched a three-pointer right in front of Person, who was sitting on the Pacers bench. As the ball swished through the net, Bird turned to Person and yelled, "Merry effing Christmas, Chuck." Years later, Chuck Person laughed about the Christmas incident and said he was not a bit surprised by it since Bird had warned him years earlier. Rookies were always fair game for Larry Bird. One rookie that Bird set his sights on in 1989 was Seattle Supersonics power forward Shawn Kemp. Like Bird, Kemp was a legendary high school player from Indiana. Kemp even broke Bird's state scoring record.
Kemp holding the ball. Got to move it. Inside he comes. He leads it with a running jam. A spread eagle. Lead in right-handed slam.
That may have been a mistake. The first time Kemp suited up against Bird and the Celtics, Bird sought Kemp out right from the jump. According to Kemp, Bird asked him, "You're the one that broke all my records in high school, right?" And I said, "Yeah, that's me." And he said, "I got something for you tonight." Bird proceeded to notch 40 points to go along with 11 rebounds and 10 assists, good for a triple-double and a Celtics win. Even in retirement, Larry Bird could leave players in awe. Paul George witnessed a 60-plus-year-old Bird knock down shots as an executive with the Pacers one day when Bird made an impromptu visit to a practice. According to George, a ball rolled over to Bird, who was dressed in a suit and loafers. He rolled up his sleeves and made about 15 in a row and just walked out like nothing happened. It was the craziest thing I've seen. We were speechless. We didn't know whether to keep shooting or just to end the practice. It was sweet, man. In a league full of loud and brash trash talkers.
Hey, you only got 3 now. I get 6. How do I get that foul?
Larry Bird set himself apart as the only guy who could crush and demoralize his foes without even raising his voice.
James to Bird. He gets a good shot in the Celtics winner. And Bird falls into Joe O'Toole.
His whispering needles helped make him the greatest trash talker the NBA has ever seen.
Bird's ability to get the final word has made for many a magic moment.